Beautiful day, nice sky. The sky is beautiful, blue. Some clouds are floating through, and I'm sitting here watching all of this happen. A plane is roaring in a distance, going somewhere, taking people to different places. The pool water is moving up and down, it's making a beautiful water relaxing sound out in nature. And the thought that came to mind is, why are we afraid of death? Death. Are you afraid of death? I was afraid of death. And I'll tell you why I was afraid of death. Growing up as a child in the 60s in the islands, when someone died, they stayed in the same house with you until it was time for burial. I remember when my grandmother died. Well, my great grandmother. I remember when my great grandmother died. They bring the coffin, which is what we call a casket now. They put it in the house. They take two chairs and prop the coffin on top of it, put her body in it, and then they took ice. Back then, they didn't have this autopsy where they, remove the organs and stuff like that. You die, and they put you in a coffin inside the home where you live, and they put ice, and the coffin is always open all day long. The ice prevents the body from swelling and decaying. So we had to put ice on there constantly until it was burial time. And I remember passing by this coffin every day, and I remember sleeping in the room right next to the coffin. And I was afraid. I mean, afraid. And after a couple of days, you get used to it. You're still afraid, but you get used to the body being there. And they had a tradition after 3 or 4 days, that's when the body can be buried. And then the body would be there in that house with you all day long. You eat, you sleep, you drink, you shit, the body was there. And then after it was buried, there was something they call 9 nights back in the islands. So people would come over every night for 7 days, and they would sing and pray for the family and the dead person, and you'd serve them tea or coffee or alcohol. And that happened for 7 nights. And then I remember my mom having to wear black, mostly every day for a whole year. That's to mourn and grieve the dead. That was the tradition back then. And the only time you'd see people wearing black is if they were in mourning or if you're going to a funeral. Black and purple was the color back then. So I never liked purple when I was younger. I always loved black, but I didn't like purple because my fear of, wearing purple, somebody might die. So I have seen people dead. I have lived in a house with a dead person while they're waiting to be buried. So I was petrified of death. I always afraid of death. I just couldn't understand why we had to die. And I know a lot of people out there thinking the same thing. Why do we have to die? Why? We born, we live life, we enjoy life. Why do we have to leave our loved ones behind in pain and suffering? And that's how I thought of it. If you thought of that, or if you're thinking of that, or if you're still thinking about that, leave it in the comments because your comments is going to help somebody else.